G'day, mates. Today we're going to do something a little different. Mix it up. I'm sick of talking about recalls. Today we're going to listen to a podcast. Now, that might sound boring, but believe you me, it is not. Especially if you're interested in business, ResMed, and the CPAP industry. It's a podcast called No Limitations. Very, very hard to find this episode anywhere. And it's an interview with Dr. Peter Farrell, who's the founder and chairman of ResMed. You got old mate Pete at the top, Mick and Paul and Kathy, I believe. That's the Farrells. They run ResMed. And this podcast is refreshing. It is very, very refreshing. He is so open, so honest, so unfiltered. And that's very, very rare these days. I listen to all the CEOs, all the directors, all the BS, and they're all cut from the same cloth. They come from the same factory. They speak the same way. And it's very, very hard to get any sort of honest, genuine information from them because they're all scared about legal stuff. Not Peter. Perhaps he had too many beers in the Qantas lounge or maybe a few single malts in first class. I don't know, but strap yourselves in because this is incredible stuff.
Welcome to the show today, Professor Peter Farrell.
Oh, well, thank you, Greg. You can call me Peter. I'm not offended.
Thanks very much, Peter.
Listen, there's a guy over at the University of Sydney Medical School. His name's Colin Sullivan. The guy's treating snoring sickness with a reverse vacuum cleaner. And I said, oh, come on, mate, this is insane. I felt like a cockroach that had been sprayed and I was on my back with my feet up in there. And anyway, so I went over to see him, Colin, and he said, I want you to sit in that chair. I'm going to show you a video. And I said, okay. And this is long before YouTube and so forth. And so the June of 1986 this was, so 33 years ago almost exactly. So I sat in the chair and he showed me this guy on his back like a sumo wrestler going. Anyway, I watched a series of these and he said that's an apnea where the upper airway is closed and the oxygen levels drop.
Right.
Anyway, he had Hewlett-Packard tracings of blood pressure and heart rate. So the guy would go into an apnea, everything would drop down, and then he'd explode, like 2 to 3 times increase in blood pressure and heart rate. Boom! And I watched a series of these, and he said, do you think that's good for him? And I said, I tell you what, why don't we move to the next question? And I said to him, well, how big do you think this area is? And he said, oh, I don't know. But he said, it's got to be at least 2% of the population. So as an MIT-educated engineer, I went 0.22 billion, 10 billion. I thought, even if it's 5 billion, this is worth getting into. So I put Baxter's money into it. And we're able to take the technology out and so forth. And we cut a deal with Colin and sort of he got quite a few shares and he ended up doing extremely well out of it, I might say, like multi-million dollars, although he thought he should get everything. But we said, well, that's not going to happen, but we'll do the best we can for you, Colin. So we started in 89, August 89, and June 30, the first year, we did about $1 million in revenues and lost $250. And most of that was, 90% was Australia. And then the next year, we did $2 million and lost $150. And the third year, we did $4 million and made $400K. That's 1992.
Wow.
So 90, 91, 92. And we've been cash flow positive ever since that time.
And what's the scale of the business now? You want to talk us through the growth?
Yeah, well, we kept growing the business at about 100%. So then we did 8 million, and then we started to slow down a bit. We went to like 14 million. Instead of 16, we sort of at 100%, 14. So we're slowing down a bit, but I mean, there was still growth. I mean, plenty of growth. And then we decided to float it. So Macquarie were in the equation and some of the local banks. And anyway, we went to the US, and there was a company in Robinson Stevens in San Francisco. And anyway, they were offering a PE of 17 versus a PE of 12 back here.
Right.
I mean, where are you going to raise the money? I mean, it's like 50% more for the same share.
Yeah, right.
And we went public at 85 million.
85 million.
Yeah. And today,
How much did you buy it for?
the total was about a million and a half.
And how many years later had you floated it?
That was 89, 90, 95, so 6 years later.
At 85.
Wow.
Yeah. Today we're US dollars. Our market cap is 19 billion. Our revenues are 2.6 billion US dollars.
Is that right?
And we make 18% net income to revenues, which is stunning. So our gross margin is 59%. We're in 120 countries, but it's the US is number one with about 1.6 billion. Then Germany, which is about 185 million. France is about 178 million. And Japan's about 110, 120. Then you've got the UK being around 4 million and Australia around 74 million. So
the original number of 2%
yeah,
was pretty accurate.
No. Well, that's not even close.
You still got so much more?
Oh, the runway. It's kind of like a marathon and we're lacing our shoes. We started with 6 people. We've now got 7,200. And we're in 120 countries. But the US, Germany, France, Japan are about 80% of our business. And then if you throw Australia and the UK in there, you're 85. So, and our fastest growth areas like China and India, but from a very small base. To give you an idea of scale, we sell 1.2 million masks a month and about 325,000 devices every month. So you don't want to recall if you can avoid it.
No, you do not. No.
And we had one and we called it on ourselves back in 2007.
This is important.
And it was one of these things we were sourcing printed circuit boards from Taiwan. And we had this engineer with an MBA, PhD MBA, and I kept pressuring him. I said, we've got to get this goddamn product out there. And he took that very seriously. And the PCBs, we changed, the design was changed. And instead of having a flexible connection to the plug, they decided to make it, they hardwired it into, pretty smart, huh? So every time you pull the thing in and out, you'd weaken the connection.
Oh.
And about 7 devices out of 300,000 had a flame coming out the back. And so, you'd have to have and it was very low temperature. We had fire experts come in, very low temperature flame. But, the possibility was if you had your machine up near your polyurethane, polyester curtains,
yeah, right,
you could set the house on fire.
Right, okay.
And so, what triggered us? So we did some estimates. It was going to cost us millions of dollars to get, because by this time our business is mostly outside Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, like 95% of it. And I had a call from a physician in Oklahoma, Jonathan Schwartz. He said, Peter, what the hell is going on the machine? You guys are known for quality. And I said, yeah, Jonathan. I said, let me get back. He said, this is not the ResMed I know, when he heard that. And I said, okay. So we just got in a huddle. I said, we're going to have a recall. So we told the FDA, and we're doing a voluntary recall. And we ended up probably getting 120,000 back. I mean, people, it's like somebody calls up, your Lexus, something wrong with the steering or whatever. And can you bring it in? And whatever, I'll do it when we get service or something. I mean, people just don't treat these things seriously.
I'm just going to pause it there for just a quick second. Really eye-opening. So 300,000 devices. What did he say then? It was 160,000 they got back. People just don't take these things seriously. And how crazy is this? So they had, I think, 6 devices out of that 300,000, or was it 7? I can't remember. That had a little flame, not a hot flame, but they thought the risk was so high that they do this voluntary recall. Philips has a heating issue right now, a thermal issue with the DreamStation 2, and they've just submitted 270 reports about smoke, fire, spark regarding these devices over the last 3 months. Now, they're saying that it's over the last 3 years, a retrospective review. I won't go into the boring stuff, but that just shows the potential for a recall.
As you would like them to, but it still cost us $64 million. So we took a big hit to the bottom line. But if it's a one-off thing, the market doesn't punish you that much.
Yeah.
If it's a one-off thing, the market doesn't punish you that much. Philips got punished. But if it's twice, it's over. They're done.
And so anyway, we did that, move forward and change the design, and that was pretty unfortunate. But I've learned in this game you need a very high tolerance for bad news, and particularly in the startup years.
Peter, why hasn't anybody copied your product?
Oh, well, they have. We've got Philips is Philips is a gift from God. They bought our competitor, and we weren't the biggest. Now we're in sleep. We're the biggest on the planet these days. But the other guy, Respironics, based in Pittsburgh, was bigger, and they Philips bought them out, which is a gift, literally a gift from God. So, some of the guys left because they were cowboys, and the Dutch being very rigorous and so on and so forth. So a lot of guys found they didn't like the culture, and so some actual good people left, and happily for us, a lot of the lemons stayed behind.
I'll stop. The gift from God. Now, this interview was recorded in 2019, before the recall. But how accurate is that statement right there? That the good people left, the lemons were left behind. Look what's happened since. Let's carry on.
Screwing up the business, so that was great for us. But together, the two of us would have 85% of the world's market. But you still, the Chinese, the good thing about the Chinese guys when they copy you, and of course they do, and there's no point in going to court there because you'll never win.
Yeah, right.
But the good news is that bits generally fall off them when you wash them. And so, they'll eventually get it right, but by the time we've morphed on to the next thing.
Right.
So we've, over the years, and over the last 18 months to 2 years, we've bought $2 million worth of software companies. So we've actually morphed into a SaaS. So we're really now software as a service. And so we're into skilled nursing facilities, hospice, and senior living. And we haven't even costed, nearly all those people have sleep apnea, and we haven't even costed that in there. So once we start, and we're managing these things now. So so we're integrating all these software things into two companies basically. So we've got a guy, healthcare informatics is huge, and our devices, every one of our devices goes up into the cloud.
Is that right?
So we now have 4.5 billion nights worth of data. MIT was coming to us and saying, "Hey, listen," but we're working now with Google, with Verily.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so they're doing the AI stuff for us. I don't know if we're going to win with that, but we've got other options. But
so much data. And they're now working with Google, Alphabet, Verily to do the AI stuff. Now, this is back in 2019, so they had 4 years on this. So we should be expecting some AI. They will be using AI already, but hopefully they start using AI in a consumer-focused way instead of a business-focused way. Well, hopefully not for us, because that's what we want to do, Sleep HQ. But I imagine they will do it as well. So, me and Adam and Emily versus ResMed. Bring it on. Let's do it.
So and we have 10 million patients.
And they've got a 4-year head start. Uh-oh.
Patients every day chuffing stuff up into the cloud. And what we're planning on doing is taking these devices, and you've got these wearable sensors now, which can do oxygen, pulse, potentially do blood pressure, and you Bluetooth that into your box. So not just sleep data, how long did you sleep, how much slow wave sleep, etc. Did you have a mask leak, etc. We collect all that stuff. And the patients we have this software program, MyAir, so they can check their own how they're doing. They may think they know what they're doing, and it's like asking a patient, "Do you snore?" No. And the wife says, "What do you mean? Of course you snore." So you really need hard data. And so we've got that. And I think the most we paid was $800 million for a company called Brightree. But what we do, we're integrated through the system. So we're dealing with all the payers, United Health and Anthem
Right.
and so forth. And so we're getting the payment for these guys, and we charge per patient per month. And we can put it up like 2 to 5% per year. I mean, it's a gravy train because
The good old gravy train. Gotta love it.
so locked in with us but what we're doing is we're reducing their unreimbursed costs.
Yeah, right.
Because they'd have to hire a phalanx of people on the phone, and every one of these healthcare insurers has a different system.
Right.
What do you want me to fax over? Can I email it to you? Oh, no, or maybe? Or you want a fax and an email. Okay. So they have to hire all these people just sitting on phones, and that's all they do. So the software does it all. And the interesting thing is that the co-pays, they weren't getting any co-pays because they'd have to have a phalanx of people calling up and saying, "Hey, listen, you owe us $150. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll put the check in the mail. Excuse me, you still have, and they were getting almost none. I mean,
Okay.
a few percent. It went almost immediately shot up to 50% with the software packages. Because, well, they just don't give up. They're just, it's like, geez, that goddamn thing. It's that son of a bitch again calling about send the check out, will you? You know what I mean? Just keep
It's that son of a bitch again calling about the copay.
harassing people.
Yeah.
So that's working quite well. In 2007, we started looking at Singapore. I knew the head of the Economic Development Board because I sat on a board with him at UCSD, a guy called Philip Yeo. And so he set up a meeting. We met with 5 guys around a table. And they said, "So what do you guys do?" Blah, blah. So they said, "Well, why don't you set up in Changi and lease a building?" And so we did that. At that time, our tax rate in the People's Republic of California was 41 cents in the dollar. After the Trump tax deduction, it wasn't reform, really. We were down to about 27%, and we started in Singapore at 17% corporate tax rate. Then we went and said, "Well, what are you guys going to do?" "We'll hire blah, blah, so many people and blah, blah, blah." And they said, "Okay, if you do that, you go to 12%. Then we went to 10%. And in August of last year, we signed an agreement through to 2030 at 6%.
ResMed, 6% tax rate in Singapore till 2030.
In Singapore.
In Singapore. Better quality, people like to work, no unions. Here, the tax rate is 30%. It's insane.
So
What do you want to manufacture? You want to pay 30 cents in the dollar or 6 cents in the dollar?
And that is why there is no manufacturing here in Australia.
With people who like to work.
And we don't like to work.
What do you think about that? Yeah. Anyway, so that is so. Any expansion now, we're doing a little bit of assembly in Atlanta. We moved our motor manufacturing from Los Angeles to Singapore. Quality went up, and productivity went up, and they're just driving business out of the state. It's and I should have moved ResMed to Texas. We looked at about 5 years ago. But anyway, so we've morphed into this SaaS now, but we're still selling lots of pillows and nasal masks and full face masks and so forth, and we've probably got 60% of the world's mask market.
what's your take on this, Australian business community, the engagement with maybe government and business? You just gave a bit of a flip side there a few minutes back, but and maybe then I might ask you a bit more about the global market we're experiencing in the US and China. So
yeah, well, Australians, I mean, the education system isn't bad, but it's basically government run.
Okay.
And it's like this climate crap where kids at school, and they got 3-year-olds with these placards and so forth. And the question is, if you thought climate change, now do I believe in it? Yes, absolutely. It's been going for 4.7 billion years since the Earth was formed. It just has nothing to do with man. So anthropogenic climate change is a complete crock of nonsense, absolute nonsense. There's not a shred of evidence that CO2 has any impact, measurable impact on climate. Maybe it increases temperature. And you notice when they say the hottest year on record, they never actually give the temperature. Isn't that funny? You know why? Because it's within the error bars. And when the dinosaurs were around, they're herbivores. One dinosaur could take care of the New South Wales Golf Club in a day. So you needed lots and lots of greenery, and you needed lots and lots of CO2. And from ice cores, we know the CO2 levels were between 8,000 and 9,000 parts per million, and we're worried about 410 today. Give me a break. Right. With the same temperature. And we've got that from ice cores. I mean, you know, so it's and whether it's doing proper science or engineering or running a business, Enlightenment principles count. And Enlightenment principles mean you have to be data-driven and evidence-based. Yeah. And if you ignore data and you ignore evidence, could you please share with me your plan B? Because it doesn't exist. It does not exist. So I say to people, show me the data and show me the evidence.
You haven't seen any yet?
No, none. Not in climate. That's nonsense. And we grew substantially like that, buying our distributors in Germany, Denmark, Czechoslovakia, Norway, Finland. We have 100% of the Finnish market. The only thing is it's 5.3 million people, but we still have 100%. Okay. So we've taken Jussi Vuori, who's there, and we said, okay, now tell them how to do it in Sweden and Norway. We've now got 100% of the Norwegian market, which is largely a tender market, but that's how we've been able to grow.
So how do you find the international mindset when you come back here and talk to Australian business people?
It's you need the exposure, and it's I mean, people aren't stupid, but if you're not exposed to things, it's hard to guess and know what to do. And I'd say Australia is way out in front in one area, and that's virtue signalling.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, any of the kookiest ideas, you know, regarding gender studies or diversity and inclusiveness and so forth. We're out there, then virtual, you know, whether it's a good idea and whether you even have a problem, you get in there and you want to lead the charge. Even though it's like in the climate stuff, you know, we're spending on a per capita basis 5 times on renewables on a per capita basis what the goddamn Germans or the Spanish drove their economy into the ground by becoming the greenest country in the world. Now they're in their basket case.
Yep.
And look at South Australia. It's idiotic. And batteries, even if you believe the crap about CO2, if you did a CO2 balance and like how much CO2 is involved in preparing the lithium batteries for your EV, have a go at, and you do a CO2 balance, you find that you created more CO2 than if you didn't go near it. But virtue signaling is, no, we've got to get into EVs and everybody's got to drive one. I went through and we visited Tesla. And
what do you think?
Oh, the guy's never going to pay it back. The amount of capital expenditure, he's going to go broke. I think it's the best short on the planet. The only thing is the timing.
That didn't age well, but he did say the only thing is the timing. So I guess, hey, maybe it will be sometime, but right now, no. Tesla was a good buy.
How do you know? You know, pick up when he's going to go broke. This is just a crock of nonsense.
Do you think we're all a bit too left down here now?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, but look how encouraging the election was. Mm. I mean, and just shows you, I mean, the same happened with Trump.
So what's your thoughts on Mr. Trump?
Well, I voted in 2016. My wife said to me, we were coming up to the wire to vote, and she said, you vote for Trump and I'm out of here. And I said, I'll tell you what, sweetheart, you vote for Clinton, you will definitely be out of here. Because I'm not a big fan of pathologic, corrupt liars. Oh. But I thought Trump, you know, I mean, Trump, you look at Trump and think, gosh, you know. So I was backing Ted Cruz, right? And he was the last man standing, by the way. And Indiana, it was all over. And so we ended up voting for Johnson Weld, you know, the libertarian group. And I mean, that was going to go nowhere. I mean, California was going to vote for the pathologic liar, as was New York. But unfortunately, the Electoral College, which the founding fathers set up, it's pretty good, and it was a majority for Trump. I haven't met Trump. I know people who know him who think he's, you know, slightly crazy, but he's a very decent guy. He's sort of a people person. And, did he pay off Stormy Daniels? We're not electing him as Pope.
That's right.
It's president. And he reduced taxes and reduced regulation. And he got 2 wonderful justices on the Supreme Court. And that'll be for decades.
Where do you say is the atmosphere, is everybody on and up, or is it? I hear 2 things. I hear business is up and everyone's very happy.
Question.
But I hear the country's polarised. So
it's polarised, yeah, because the left, that's, you've got Get Up and groups like that are active, and people like Soros, and they have these 501c3s, that with these nice sounding names like Open Society and so forth, and they're all left-wing kooks running them, and Steyer, who made his money on fossil fuels.
Fair enough. Can I ask what your thought is on China? Are we playing it right?
It's hard to. Well, the question is Trump playing it right? And I mean, I'm totally against tariffs. On the other hand, he's using tariffs as a blunt instrument to get them to the Chinese. Let's face it, they cheat. They cheat. I mean, your patents there, you can't go to court there and expect to get. And when any US business comes in, 1.5 billion people, and it's a big market, people want to access it. And the Chinese say, you need a Chinese partner, or you're not allowed to do Google. You're not allowed to do this, and Facebook. You're not allowed to do this. It's not a free market. And nearly every business, the Communist Party's in there, and Xi Jinping has become the new Mao.
That's right.
So and Huawei, I wouldn't let those bastards in. I mean, why would you? So I think you've got to play hardball. And Trump, they with this trade thing, they welched on some of the, I don't know what the specifics were, they welched on it because they thought that Trump was so desperate to get this deal done because of the Democrats and the impeachment and all the rest of them. And the Russian collusion, 30-something or 32, 33 million on this investigation, where they knew from the start that there was nothing there because the dossier was paid for by Clinton and the Democratic National Committee. Yeah. They knew it. And Mueller didn't find zero obstruction because he wanted to leave something because there was something like 17 lawyers who actually contributed to Clinton that were on the investigation. I mean, the whole thing was a joke, a total utter farce. But as far as China goes, I mean, Obama this guy was useless. I mean, he's basically a socialist. I mean, he used to teach rules for radicals, Saul Alinsky in Chicago. And he was a community organizer. What preparation is that? And an arrogant one. And he set race relations back, in my view, 50 years. Anyway, he let China, in the South China Seas, let him build all those little military islands there. Right. And now there's pushback with Trump and so forth. And then they're saying, Trump's getting into bed with Kim Jong-un. Well, they're not firing rockets anymore, and they're having some effect there. Trump is not going to be pushed around so I'm satisfied with that. So with China, I think, do China want war? I don't think so. I don't think so. Can you guarantee anything? No, of course you can't. But the likelihood, I think, is fairly remote. And is Trump going to get impeached? Absolutely not. They have nothing on him. It's just these idiots like, Waters running around like a headless chicken, and Kamala Harris, and she's about 2%, 3% in the polls. And then you got Bernie Sanders. It's like a throwback to the 1870s. And then who's running third? Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas. I thought that was fantastic, when Trump came out and called her Pocahontas.
So what's going on in Europe then?
Angela Merkel, first of all, Brexit, I think is an easy solution. And I hope Boris Johnson gets it. They voted 52-48 to get out of the EU.
That's right.
Why would you give the EU any money? It's all done in the private sector. So BMWs and Mercedes aren't going to be bought anymore in the UK because of Brexit? Huh? Rubbish. Mm-hmm. The free markets, free minds determine how things go. It's not government bureaucrats sitting in Brussels, and because they're trying to screw, and they're saying to Theresa, well, we're going to need a few £1 billion to, if you're going to pull out here. I think one of the questions that you were asking there is who's calling the shots, me or Mick? Well, it's really Rob and Mick. They're the office of the CEO, which I'd started beforehand anyway with Rob, and Rob ran second to Mick in the stakes to become CEO. But I mean, Rob is 90% of the board meeting, he's sitting there. And so one of the big challenges for me was pulling back.
Yes,
I mean, you're involved and it's everything, and it's go. So, and for a while I was executive chairman, and then stepping down from that, you sort of, so we meet, we have a conversation like once a week or something for an hour, half an hour to an hour. So, I mean, I keep informed, but I'm not in the decision making. But I'm chair of that. I'm chair of Arcturus, a company which is a messenger RNA and small interference RNA, and with the target being cystic fibrosis, NASH, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and ornithine transcarbamylase activity, where instead of getting urea in the body, you get ammonia. Not so good, since it destroys all your organs. But anyway, we got an opportunity there, and that's a NASDAQ company. I'm on the board of Scripps Research, where we got 2 Nobel laureates, and it was ranked by Nature as the #1 biological institute in the world, and 22 or 23 members of the National Academy of Sciences. I mean, I wouldn't say that's great. I'm a member of the National Academy of Engineering. But you do have to get voted in by the other 2,100 members. So if you're a complete screw loose, you probably won't get in. And anyway, and then I'm 2 startups, one being a pathology company, which is cloud enabled with a little device, which is great for medical schools and so forth. And that's kind of a living dead at the moment. We want to try to flog it.